Much like Diesel's WWF title run in 1995, Shawn Michaels' time with the WWF Championship in 96 is seen by some people as a failure. There's no doubt business was down in 1996, but it wasn't just Shawn Michaels who was failing to draw audiences, it was the wrestling business as a whole. It's always baffled me how people base the success of a wrestling company based on how well the champion drew crowds. If this was true, you don't hear people praising Hulk Hogan for the success of WCW in 97, nor do we heap praise on Batista or Sheamus for their title wins in 2010 that became one of the most profitable years in WWE history. Make no mistake about it though, the whole wrestling business was struggling as we went into 1996, but it would be WCW that would begin turning things around that summer with the introduction of the New World Order. Shawn Michaels had turned babyface in 1995 and he would be getting his long-awaited first WWF title run in 96. While the general consensus nowadays is that Shawn's run was a failure, taking the time to go back and look at the matches Shawn had will unearth some gems that deserve to get highlighted. In this video, we will look at Shawn's complete year of 1996 and the fulfillment of his boyhood dream. We need to start off in November of 1995. Shawn Michaels faced Owen Hart in a match on Monday Night Raw that saw Shawn Michaels collapse in the ring after taking an enziguri. This was done in kayfabe as Shawn needed time away to nurse an unrelated injury. The collapse on Raw though done quite a bit to garner sympathy for HBK. At the 1996 Royal Rumble, Shawn won the Rumble match, stamping his ticket into the WrestleMania 12 main event. The Rumble match wasn't too bad, not great either, but Shawn's entrance gives an indication on just how over the guy was at the beginning of the year. At this point in his career, with maybe the exception of The Undertaker, no one was more over in the WWF than Shawn Michaels. The Royal Rumble match ended when Shawn superkicked his buddy Diesel over the top rope in the final moments of the match. The next night on Raw, Shawn Michaels came out to the ring for an interview with Vince McMahon. McMahon was totally gushing over Shawn Michaels during this time period, which maybe done Shawn more harm than good in hindsight. Anyway, Shawn Michaels announced he wants to get some revenge on Owen Hart for knocking him out in November. This prompted Jim Cornette to come to the ring, who said HBK can have a match with Owen Hart, but only if Shawn puts his WrestleMania 12 title shot on the line, and so it was booked. Jim Cornette was awesome here, by the way. Whatever you may think of the man, he played his role brilliantly. So at In Your House 6 on February 18th, 96, Shawn worked against Owen Hart. This match was set up with the sole purpose of making Shawn look as good as possible going into WrestleMania 12 the following month. Take away the pandering and you have a good match here. There's some good athletic work along with some small comedy spots that aren't overdone. Of course, it never felt like Shawn's title shot was in jeopardy, but still a fun match nonetheless and one that's recommended. The February 26, 1996 episode of Raw included an interview segment featuring Shawn Michaels and his WrestleMania 12 opponent, Bret Hart. Both men got a similar crowd reaction coming to the ring. Both men were over as hell. Shawn and Bret traded pleasantries with each other, putting each other over more so than actually challenging each other. Go back and watch this though. There's a moment where Bret Hart says to Shawn that he's going to hit him with everything but the kitchen sink, and for whatever reason this begins to crack Vince McMahon up, which in turn cracks Bret up. A small thing but funny nonetheless. Acting WWF President Roddy Piper comes to the ring, puts both men over and announces the WWF title match will be a 1-hour Iron Man match, the first of its kind at WrestleMania, and to date, the only Iron Man match to be contested on the grand stage. Roddy Piper predicts the future when he says, "You might as well shake hands now because you're going to hate each other after this." The WrestleMania 12 match between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart is quite polarising for fans. Some loved it and some didn't. At the time, when I was younger, I thought it was good, and the WWF done a good job of building the match up to be a spectacle. Looking back now, I can also see why people don't like it. It is a slow match, and both men are cautious of taking their time and stretching out rest holds. The match definitely has its moments for sure, and I wouldn't say it's a bad match, because it isn't, but I can see why some fans maybe don't like it as much as others. The final 10 minutes though are still quite dramatic. Shawn Michaels had a memorable entrance here, where he ziplined from the rafters to the floor. Quick side note, Shawn since revealed that he needed to have a toilet break while waiting up there for his entrance, knowing he had to work for over an hour and having no further opportunities for a toilet break. The Heartbreak Kid decided to take a whiz at the very top of the Anaheim Pond Arena before ziplining down to win the WWF title. The match went the full hour without a single pin, submission, DQ or countout. Gorilla Monsoon came out and announced the match was to go into sudden death, meaning whoever was awarded the next fall would be the winner. Shawn nails the super kick and wins his first WWF Championship as a pissed off Bret Hart walks away. And so begins the Shawn Michaels title run of 96. The next night on Raw, Vince McMahon introduces Shawn Michaels as the leader of the new generation as HBK makes his way to the ring for an interview. Shawn Michaels says that WrestleMania 12 was the best night of his life. He thanks the fans for their support, and it's announced that Jerry Lawler will work against HBK the following week on Raw. It's also announced that Diesel will be coming after Shawn's title, which is odd, seeing that The Undertaker defeated Diesel the previous night at WrestleMania. Anyway, Diesel was getting prepared to leave the WWF around this time, and he was going to be doing the job on his way out. It's announced that at the next In Your House show, Shawn will defend his title against Diesel. Needless to say, Jerry Lawler didn't win the title the next week on Raw. Shawn then worked a ton of house show matches, defending his title against the likes of the British Bulldog, Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Steve Austin. At In Your House Good Friends Better Enemies, Shawn and Diesel had a very good no disqualification match that Shawn ended up winning. This deserves a look if you haven't already saw it, and even if you have, it deserves a second look. I feel there were only two men who could get a great match out of Diesel in the WWF, and those two men were Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. And Shawn makes a point here of making sure his friend looks good on his way out of the company. After the match, you can see Shawn take shots at WCW during his celebration, mocking Hulk Hogan's poses and shouting something about "This is where the big boys play." Davey Boy Smith was up next to get a shot at Shawn's belt, with the storyline being that Shawn had made advances towards Davey's wife Diana, and Davey was none too happy about this. It was all obviously a big lie, made up by Jim Cornette, Davey and Diana to make Shawn look like a homewrecker. I thought it was dumb and not really needed at all, but hey, it is what it is. Jim Cornette here was brilliant though, ripping into Shawn Michaels and calling him a sexual deviant. So stupid, but Cornette makes it all watchable. Shawn would defend his title at the next In Your House, Beware of Dog, against Davey Boy Smith, a pay-per-view that was plagued with problems. The show had to be done twice over thanks to a power outage. Shawn Michaels vs Davey Boy at Beware of Dog was just okay. It was passable, but still, the pair's previous matches for the IC title I felt were better. Shawn looked legitimately pissed off during the match too, likely due to the power outage. The match ended when Shawn performed a pinning German suplex, but his shoulders were also down on the mat at the same time as Davey's. Bulldog was awarded the title, but then a second ref says Shawn won the match. Gorilla Monsoon comes to the ring and announces the match as a draw, meaning Shawn holds on to the title. This is contradictory to Gorilla restarting the WrestleMania 12 title match, but anyway, Shawn leaves Beware of Dog as champion. A rematch is set up for King of the Ring, and the pair do have a better match here, but Davey is still unable to capture the title. When Owen Hart and Vader attack after the match, Ahmed Johnson and the Ultimate Warrior come in to assist HBK, setting up the 6-man International Incident Tag Team match at the following In Your House. Warrior ended up leaving and he was replaced by a returning Sycho Sid. Camp Cornette ended up getting the win at International Incident. It was around this time that the cracks were beginning to show with Shawn Michaels. Over on WCW, Shawn's clique buddies, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, had just formed the New World Order, and fans were tuning into Nitro to see what all the fuss was about. Shawn, meanwhile, felt that he was responsible for WWF's failure to capture TV audiences and sell out shows. He was also living a not so clean lifestyle, and things were already beginning to get on top of him. No further proof is needed than his performance against Vader at SummerSlam 1996, where Shawn verbally abused Vader during the match and legit kicked his head when Vader missed a planned spot. The match too was nothing to write home about, as the match was restarted multiple times, which, in effect, made Shawn look weak. I've talked about this match before in my Vader video, look it up. Shawn left SummerSlam 96 with the title, but personally I wouldn't have been too mad if Vader won the gold here. Shawn's next pay-per-view title defence was probably his best of 1996. Shawn defended the gold against Mankind, who had just debuted in the WWF during 96 and was just coming off his Boiler Room Brawl victory at SummerSlam. The match was sorely needed to help Shawn Michaels show a more violent side to his character, as by this point, the constant pandering by Vince McMahon on the headset had been getting on fans' nerves. Mankind vs Michaels was everything it needed to be, a hard-hitting and tough match for Michaels to win. Mick Foley calls this match one of his greatest ever in his first book. Sid, who had returned to replace the Ultimate Warrior in the International Incident 6-man tag, was getting good crowd reactions, and the decision was made for Sycho Sid to face Shawn Michaels at Survivor Series 96 in Madison Square Garden. The right call was made here, as Shawn dropped the title in this very match. Shawn looked a bit rough going into the match, but he still had a good showing, giving Sid his best match to date in the WWF. The crowd was also firmly behind Sycho Sid, as the whole Shawn Michaels pretty boy gimmick and that pandering I spoke about earlier had now become too much for the New York crowd. It's a good match, and Michaels was kept protected as the match ended when Jose Lothario was hit with a camera, causing Shawn to get distracted. After this match, Shawn was pretty much kept away from matches on TV. He did still work house shows as a babyface, working mainly against Mankind and Goldust, but Shawn was kept away to make his title rematch at the Royal Rumble in 97 that little bit more noteworthy. He ended 1996 by unintentionally costing Bret Hart the WWF title at In Your House, It's Time. And that was Shawn's 1996 title run. Maybe things are a bit more clear for you now you can see how Shawn was booked towards the end of the run. I feel the Davey Boy Smith matches and the Vader match done Shawn absolutely no favours. The way those storylines were written and also how the SummerSlam match played out didn't really help anyone involved. And of course, Shawn's own problems during this time frame didn't exactly help either. Shawn was great when it came to bell time, and putting him in a one-on-one match with no bullshit surrounding it always seemed like the best option. Watching this all back, it's very hard to not get annoyed when hearing Vince McMahon promote Shawn Michaels like he was a wrestling messiah. I feel that Vince's constant pushing on commentary and during interviews may have hurt Shawn in the long run, as by Survivor Series in 1996, a good 80% of the audience wanted to see him drop the gold.